design aspect of Power BI. I think that's one part where people are very polarized about their, either artistic or, just formula focused. And so today we are getting the opportunity for those who struggle with design, who feel maybe a bit more comfortable with clicking things here and there and DAX and Power Query. This is an opportunity to get some expert tips to improve your design within Power BI. So today we've got Tolulope Olowookere. She's going to be presenting to us, and I'll try my best to get out of our way as quickly as possible. This session is brought to you by your BZ and MHS Analytics. Your BZ is a Microsoft Excel, data analysis, financial modeling, SQL training and consulting company based in Nigeria. We've been in operation since 2014. We are based out of Lagos, but we are able to provide services to everywhere in Nigeria. So if you ever need our services, be it as an individual or for your company, always feel free to reach out to us. I'll put our email and also website in the chat so that you can access it. If you see my face turning around, it's because I need to admit people. And I also share these premium resource portal. So if you are interested in taking online classes or you want to just download the free resources or access some of the free content there, you can access. MHS Analytics is a Canadian entity, same services, but geared more towards the North American market. So we consult for clients here. We also understand what the needs are here that might be unique. So for people who are based out of the country, especially those in North America and Europe, sometimes they get that confidence that what they are learning, who they are engaging with, understand also the context and what's important in their own environment. So, all right. And this is the most important part of the session, which is me eventually handing over to the speaker for today. Her name is Tolulope Olowookere. She's got, I think it's even over 5 years, in this data analytics space across different tools, across different companies. And she focuses on helping companies and professionals to make the most of their data. She's someone who enjoys teaching, sharing her knowledge. You can connect with her on LinkedIn. I'll share her LinkedIn link in the chat. So right now I'm going to hand over to her so she can do the demo. So Tolu, over to you. Stop sharing my screen.
Thank you very much, Michael, for that very swift introduction.
I
Thank you.
wanted to be quick, so I know your
Yes.
presentation is always power-packed. I don't want to take any more of your minutes.
Okay. Thank you, and good afternoon. It's evening anyway, it's here. So good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Tolu, as Michael has already introduced, and our topic for today, I think I'll just jump right into it, is tips to enhance dashboard design in Power BI. So this session is not just for Power BI. I need to set that out. So, but just because I'm going to use Power BI as an example, it can be used for any visualization tool that you have out there: Excel, Looker, Tableau, all those good stuff. So the way this session is going to run is going to be half chit chat, and then the other half would be familiarizing ourselves on how to take the steps or the tips I have mentioned earlier. So first of all, if you are given a data set, maybe the client reaches out to you and they want you to work with work on a data set, and they have the requirements they want to see, and you're ready to work with them, of course. I would like to ask a question at this point. If the first thing that comes to your mind is importing the data into Power BI or whatever tool you're using and start building, I'll say you should think again. Although data visualization is all about, it looks like my sound is echoing. I don't know if you can help with that. Maybe somebody's mic is on or something. Yeah, sorry about that. So let me just ask the question again, or let me play the scenario again. So you have a data set or And also, yeah, it's most likely a data set given to you by your boss or by a client that reaches out to you, and then he says, I need you to do XYZ, create this kind of visual. I want to see this. I want to make sense out of this data. And then he hands it over to you. And the first thing that comes to your mind is, oh, okay, let me just plug it into Power BI. Let me see what I can do with it. I'll say you should think again. And why will I say that? To me, or in my opinion, the first steps or the first things you should think of when you are faced with a data set are two things. They are data cleaning and data modeling. Of course, we already know the cleaning part, manipulating our data, shaping it in a way that Power BI will handle most efficiently. Although we have Power Query, which is very good in shaping our data and all that, but if you are opportuned to shaping your data at the source, that means wherever you're connecting to is already 90% or 85% clean, you're doing yourself a favor. Not because we are belittling what Power Query can do, because Power Query is excellent, and I'm an advocate for Power Query. I like how you can simplify tasks and automate stuff using Power Query. But for sustainability or longevity of your reports, it's advisable that you make sure that at the source, you're doing most of the manipulation there. Then the modeling side, you can always use there are different tools. I've heard people use things like draw.io to create your data model first. So if you imagine you have multiple tables, just like how a data model should look like, is you can also use pen and paper. So you identify which tables would be your fact table, which tables would be your dimension tables. Is there a table that you need to normalize or otherwise? So all this should be in place before even thinking about, oh, do I need to put a bar chart here or do I need to put a line chart? So once you are done or once you are certain that, oh, okay, or to an extent, maybe you're 50% or 60% done with modeling at least, that sets a good foundation for you. And that's the best way to go about thinking about building a report or a dashboard. I'm going to be using report or dashboard here because most times people use those two interchangeably, but we know in Power BI, they mean two different things. For the sake of this class, let's imagine they just mean the same thing. That's data visualization. So make sure that your data is clean and is in good shape, and you have to even draw your entire data model. Remember, you also have to draw maybe tables that you're bringing in, like, for example, maybe your calendar table or your date table, as case may be, the number of rows that may be needed, the number of rows that will not be needed. And once you have even done that, in Power Query, you can also document some of those steps. So, for example, maybe you are connecting to an SQL data source, and then you have to write a query within Power Query to show that you are picking a certain number of columns, right? It's advisable that you, on that query, on that table, you write a note so that for your sake and for whoever is going to take up that task after you would know that, oh, you did not do select star or you didn't select all the columns because of this. You understand? So maybe after conversing with the stakeholder, you find out that, oh, these are the certain items they would need, and this one will be overlooked. So you know what columns to choose and what not. So it's always better to think modeling first, think data cleaning first, even before bringing your data to your visualization table. Visualization tool. So the next thing would be please, I would like your questions. If you have anything contrary, any questions, you can drop them in the comment section. You should always think insights over aesthetics. Although it should be a design class, as the case may be, but I will still advise that insights over aesthetics, and I'll give different scenarios. So I remember when I used to work in my there's a somewhere I used to work, and then of course I like design. And at some point, because I was getting really getting good at it, let me put it that way. I was already falling for aesthetics over insights. So you have a report, for example, that would have a bookmark, page navigation, buttons, and all those fancy stuff. And then those things are not telling you anything, or they're even making you more confused than what you should do. So than helping you make decisions as the case may be. So is it not better I have card visuals that just shows me how much I'm making, whether did I make a profit or a loss, and all that gives me straight to the point. And that's the whole essence of data visualization, to make things easy for us. Or easy for the end user to make decisions. But when you're adding tooltips, all those things are beautiful and they are very creative. But if it is wavering, you are going off one way or the other from the main focus, which is the insight that you're trying to visualize, then you should think again. So at all costs, minimal aesthetics, and let your insights shine through, because even the insights, when they are obvious and they shine through, nobody will think about whether you are um using the most fanciest color or whatever. Then another thing I also want to say, what makes a dashboard outstanding would be document your steps. So in as much as I know this can be very dicey for many people, even me. I'm even guilty, because there's sometimes that while you're working on the reports, you even learn something new. But for some reason, maybe you forget or something happens, and then you come back in 2 weeks' time. Okay, the report is not refreshing properly. You download it and you want to see what is happening, and then everything looks brand new. Some of us might be geniuses and will never forget anything. But for the sake of some of us that are not, please document your steps for yourself first, and even for someone else that might take up that report from you. And it's a beautiful thing. Okay, I'm going to show us when we get into Power BI anyways, how we can document some of the steps we take. One way is, for example, in Power Query, whatever step you take in the cleaning, you can rename it and also like add a little note. Another beautiful thing that makes a dashboard or a report outstanding is when you rename columns. As little as this may look or may sound, it is very important. When we connect to data sources, maybe a database or something, sometimes we have, especially like SQL, most times the headings, like the header for each column would be in lowercase, and then maybe some will have underscore and numbers with them. They will just look a bit funny. So you can see something like 01 sales underscore amount, something like that. You are the one working on report, you know what that column means. But your end user or whoever is using the report at the other end does not know what that means. Or even though he can figure it out, it doesn't speak professionalism from your end. It just feels like you do not pay attention to details. Change the column names, give them appropriate names, remove any form of jargons, and make sure that you have the audience in mind in the best way you can. Make sure that the column names are best representing of whatever visual you are using at that point. So other tips that we have, you must have a purpose. I know I've said this in the one way or the other. So what exactly is your purpose? Like, what is your why? Why are we even creating this report in the first place? You also have to ask questions like, who is this report for? So most times, if the report is for high-level managers, they wouldn't most times they wouldn't do a lot of drilling down. They just want dashboard-like kind of reports. So they just want reports that are straight to the point. You don't have so many buttons to click here and there to drill down or have more information. No. Something that at a glance they can see what is happening within the organization. So that's one question you can ask. Who is this report for? Then how often should we, is the report going to be used? So is this something that's going to be weekly, or it's going to be monthly, or it's going to be yearly? So if it's weekly, you know that most of your your visuals would be, especially your maybe line charts and the rest, would most likely be filtered to week on week or month on month, as the case may be. Just depends on the purpose of that report in that case. So how frequent will that report be used? So the next one is only include, of course, I've said this before, only include important information. And this is even from the source. So they can give you a large data set with 25 columns, 5 million rows and all that. And the only rows or columns you might need may just be 6 out of that from one table. And then the other table, maybe 12 or something like that. So instead of even increasing the size of Power BI so it doesn't lag and all that, just make sure that you focus on using the most important information. And how do you know this? Is by asking questions. Once they've given you the requirements, you can also tell whoever is giving the requirements to spell out the matrices or metrics they want to see, and then you know what columns to pick from to get that result. Another beautiful thing is proximity. I read somewhere that there's an acronym CRAP, right? And that crap just means the C means contrast. So this just has to do with colors, how to choose color palette and all that. Then we have R. That one, R means repetition in this case. Repetition as in, so I'm going to show us all this anyways. Have to repeat myself. When you are in Power BI and then you have maybe for a visual, for a card visual, you're using font size 14. Another card visual, you're using the font size 12, and they are side by side. There's no repetition, so there should be consistency. If you're using this font size for title, use it all across if the all the charts you'll be using. Then there's A. C, I said contrast. R, I said repetition. A, alignment. As little as alignment can be, it can make or mar your report, especially when it comes to design. So if your charts are not aligned well, they can make your design look not unprofessional, or it doesn't look outstanding, as the case may be. Then we also have proximity, and that's what I wanted to speak about here. So proximity just has to do with grouping related charts or grouping related matrices. So for example, if you are speaking to profits, maybe you have 4 charts that speak to profits, they should be grouped amongst themselves or close to themselves, so that when the stakeholder is looking, he knows that, oh, I'm looking towards this direction and I'm looking at everything that speaks to profit. You can also make another thing that is also important for proximity is maybe you have a slicer that's not slicing every chart, it's just slicing one chart in the report. You can bring that that slicer closer to that chart, so that once you are it will be easier for the user experience anyway. So he knows that, oh, okay, I just need to use this slicer to filter these reports. To filter these charts. That's part of the tips that will be important. Then I've said consistency or repetition. I've talked about alignment also. And the last but not least is to keep evolving. The first, I can say this with my chest, unless otherwise, anyways. But the first dashboard you create will be your worst dashboard ever. I remember the first dashboard I created, and I even had the audacity to post it on LinkedIn, and people were even congratulating me and saying, "Go girl, you are doing well." When I looked back at the rubbish I did that year, I can say that what I did was just it's appalling. Let me put it that way, but as at that time, it was great. So it's to keep evolving. There are many resources out there, videos to watch, books to read, webinars like this to join, that will help you improve your um skills in building dashboards. Another thing about this evolving is don't be complacent. So I remember there was a time when I used to work in an organization, and I was solely my main JD for the most part was to be creating reports because we were transitioning into like using Power BI. We're moving all our reports from Excel to Power BI. And then I was giving one of the departments, many departments, not just one. And then we're creating reports and everything was going well. And it got to a point where it became like monotonous. I already knew, oh, I'll put a card here, I'll count this out. And I thought I was doing well because I was like, okay, I already know what to do. Until one day, and then my boss at that time just called me and said, "Ah, what kind of reports are you building? What insights can you see from this report?" That's when I now went back to look through what I really did. And I found out that, oh no, I've been doing nonsense because really there was no insights because every report is unique. It's not general. Okay, even if you're working with sales, dashboard, for example. Yes, I know that across different companies or across different industries, sales might still be sales. Okay, we want to know whether we or not we hit our target and stuff like that. But there are some departments that they have their domain specific. So you can't just use, okay, you know one style, you know how to build sales dashboard, you can build anytime. You also need to have a knowledge of the workings of that domain for to an extent, even if not totally, in order for you to build something sensible, especially when maybe you don't have so much information about what, or maybe from the requirements, you don't have so much. You can't be left alone to decide which whether this is a matrix or not, or a metrics or not. So you have to, one way or the other, find out from those in that department and ask questions. And that's how you can keep evolving. So I'm going to stop here for now. I still have one more slide, but I'm going to say this at the end of, or towards the end of the webinar. So let me hop on to Power BI, and then I'm going to show us some tips and tricks to make a dashboard like this work better. This can be my first dashboard was even if they are not in the same category, I'll say it was something very similar to this. I just put 4 or 5 visuals together and I just thought, oh, I've created something. And then looking back, I'm like, oh no, it can be a whole lot better. So remember, when I started, I said the first thing that we should think of should be we should think modeling first and also data cleaning. So, but I know we don't have so much time on our hands. I'll just run us through some of the steps I took before getting to the cleaning part and the modeling part. So I did the modeling even before I brought it into Power BI. On the sheet of paper, I already specified my fact table, I specified my dimension tables. So I had to do a few calculations here, but that's not my focus. I just wanted to show off something. So if you look at this data set here, I have years and I have dates in Excel. It looks pretty fine because what happened was that we had the dates here as they were merged as one cell. But once you bring it into Power BI, you notice that you have nulls. So I had to fill down this series. And once I filled down, it was better. I changed the data type and I had to also unpivot. This unpivoting is very essential because in Excel, it looks perfect, but Power BI, you cannot work with data that is, when I say that have been pivoted, you have to unpivot it. So unpivot is very similar to what I would say like transpose. So you have every field, right? Or when I mean field, every field is a column and every row is a record. So looking at this table, we have years field, we have, I should call this month, but let's say we have dates field, we have branch field, and then we have barbecue chicken, barbecue Philly steak, beef suya, all the way to the end. There are different flavors of the suya. I mean, the pizzas that we sell. They should be in one field as pizza of pizza flavor or something like that. Because they're all related. So they should be in one field, that means in one column. Then their corresponding attributes or their corresponding values should be in another column. That's how data should be stored field-wise, because every row is a record. It means on 2018 January, for barbecue chicken, this is the amount. That's how it should be read, not the other way around. So we had to pivot. And so these are some of the steps that has to be taken before even bringing your data straight into Power BI. If not, you run into errors. So once we do some of those cleaning, okay, I wanted to say something. I wanted to show us how we can document some of those notes. So if you have, for example, you want to document what you did here, you can just right click, then go to properties. Then you can, in your description here, you can say, okay, I pivot the columns, something like this. And then you say, okay. So you're just giving it like a note. Once you go back into Power BI, and then you go to the table view. Okay, let's wait for it to load. You go into the table view, model view. You should see, I think I did it here. Just by, So can you see the description here? I unpivot the column. So it could be something more explanatory in that case. So maybe I deleted 2 columns, something that you did so that you can remember and someone else that's taking up the task for you would know what is happening in that table. So that's one way of documenting some of your steps or some of the steps you take. Another important thing that can come in very handy. I'm sure we have, I don't know if we've ever encountered data sets. I mean, what's it called? Data models that can be very large. Maybe you're having multiple facts table, multiple dimension tables, and to even go through or to even see what's happening, you have to be scrolling left, right, and center. Did you know? Because I just found out that you can just add a new what's it called it? A new layout, and you can add more. So you just maybe bring some of the tables into this point so that you don't have to be scrolling all through. Though I don't have so a very big model, but in case you find yourself in that situation where the data model is so large and it's even confusing, scrolling left, right, and center, you can split it into 2 and then bring the second one here, and it will help with your scrolling left, right. So I just wanted to put that out there. I'm going to go back to the report view and then I'm going to start. So we're going to be using the CRAP method. Now for contrast, right? People speak about colors, and I know that colors can be a lot for so many people, like deciding what colors to use, how to use them, anything. It can be a hassle. But I would always advise here, the less, the better. Don't use so many colors. It will just be it will not even help you. What I usually go for, or what my rule of thumb. So for example, I have this logo here. Let me even make it bigger. And I can see maybe this is my company logo. So I want to be on brand. I want to follow the brand's color. I have green, I have red, I have white, black, and red. So most times what I just do is that I would let me copy this. I've just copied that logo. Then I'll go to my browser. There's a website called Adobe Color. I don't know if there's R or anyhow I type it. Should bring it up for me. So this one, this Adobe Color, this first one, I'll click on it. And then I can now extract themes. So you choose this extract themes and gradients, this one. So I click on visit. Now you can, let me see if I can do this. I can paste. No, I cannot. So I'll just look for where it is on my PC and I would I'll drop it here. Yes. Something about. Okay. So I've brought in the logo here. So instantly it's going to pick, it's going to pick the hex color. All these codes. And these are the colors I'm going to use as my theme, as my color theme. So if it's not even picking it correctly for you, you can even like move it around for it to pick the right shade of the color, for example. So what this tool helps you to do, you drop in the logo, or it could be excuse me, an image or whatever. And then it will help you pick up the colors that make up the image. And most times the logo is really the brand's color. So once you have all these colors and they are okay, you just copy them one after the other. Then you go into Power BI and then you're going to format or edit the theme you're working in. So you go to the view tab, then you should see customize current theme, right? So once you click on that, you see all the colors are in the current theme. So if you notice, those are the colors that are applied in this dashboard or reports at the back end. So you can rename those colors. So remember I copied that code. I'll just paste it here and then it gives me the correct color. Then I'm going to go on to the next one. I'll copy this code also. And then I paste it here. I'll copy the third one also. So this green, I'll paste it here. I'll copy the fourth one also. Then I'll copy the fifth one. So what I want to do for 5. I'll paste it here. So you might be wondering, okay, what happened to color 6, 7, and 8? So you can always like move this stuff around. So maybe you should pick another shade for you or something. It even looks like this red is a bit different from the first red you picked. So something like that. And then use it to populate. Or you can also leave it at just 5 colors. And you would apply all these colors. Let me show you what this is going to do for you now. I should have showed us what it was before now, but let me just show us since I've already gotten here. So I click on apply. Now it has even applied it to what I already have. You can see the green, the red, the whatever. So I'm going to, so for example, maybe I want to change the color of something here, right? I can go to um see the color of the line or the shade area in this case, anyone. Then I need color, right? It's just matching the line color, so I don't need to change it. Okay, so for the color, once I click on this, all those colors I picked, there was white, there was black. Oh, this white and black, they're default. They must always be there. Then these are the colors in the same order in which I picked it. This was the first one, the second one, the third one. It's now showing you different shades of that color. So it depends on the brand you're working with. So in this case, for this pizza company, these are their brand colors from this red till this red here. Those are brand colors, and you can see that they have like different shades. Another beautiful thing about customizing your theme, let me show you, is that so once I click on customize theme, there are other tabs here. So you can also customize the text. So I don't know, it's a hassle for me sometimes choosing the right text. So the best thing that you can do is to just have a default text. So for example, for all your titles, maybe you want them to be this din, and then you want them to be size 12, or you want them to be a certain color. You can do that from here. Okay, for your cards, what type of fonts do you want? You can do them from here. For your tab headers, what type of title do you want? You can do that from here. Even for your visuals, do you want a certain color of background? Do you want borders? You can you can customize all of them from here so that even when you're working, you don't have to do it multiple times for all of them. Then for filter pane, do you want to color it? So most times it's unnecessary, but if you want to, you can. So I needed to put that out there. Okay, so enough of all my talking. We're going to recreate what we have here, and then we're going to recreate it in this sheet, on this page. Now, first things first, we've done our modeling part, and we are sure that we have a standard model. We have a data table, this calendar table. A date table, the calendar table. Uh, Everything is working fine here. Now we need to build the reports. So one of the things we need to do, first of all, I usually like to start with a sketch. So after I already know that these are the matrices I'm going to be working on and all that, sometimes I just come to PowerPoint. Most times I use my pen and paper. So I'm kind of old school, but I'll come here and then I go, okay. For example, I need four cards or 5 cards. Maybe this space will be for a what's it called? A slicer or something. Then I need maybe one line chart or something that speaks to dates. Then something here. I'm just bringing them together little by little. Remember, we also spoke about alignment. Then I'll have maybe one here, one here, and here. Something like this. It might not necessarily follow through, right? But it just gives me an idea that, oh, okay. And another thing we need to know is that the way the human eye moves, the most important things I usually found, or whenever you open a book or you are watching TV, your eyes goes to the top first. Am I right? Yes, it does. Voluntarily or involuntarily, you just want to see what's happening at the top first. And if you don't see any information, you will scan through to the end again and say, okay, you breeze. Most times you even breeze through the center, and then you scan towards the end to see if there's anything that catches your eye. So that's why most times we always have our card visuals at the top because they give you instant information and you know what is happening. Then at the middle parts and towards the end, you can have visuals that will help, that you need to drill down or drill up and all those kind of things that you need maybe a little bit more attention on. You put them at the center. Then maybe things that might not be so important, you put it towards the end here. So that's how the eye works. So I can use a pen and paper to quickly sketch this, or I can also do that in PowerPoint. Then once I have that as a sketch, some people design their PowerPoint and then import it into Excel. But sometimes, into Power BI, but sometimes I find that a bit static in a way because in case you need to change some things, you might have to go back and change the theme again. So I'm not really a fan, but it works very well for so many people. So let's start off. I usually like to start with adjusting the size of my canvas. I know the canvas size might be fine for many people, But in case I already know that I'm going to have many visuals on that report, I like to customize my size. So I'll just increase the height a bit. So instead of 720, I'll just go with sometimes sometimes I do 750 or 800 sometimes. So let's just go with 750 for the sake of this class. And then for the width, I'll just do 1300. So I just increase it a little bit, and then I'll also align it to the center so that the page sits properly. So once I have that, I would add in some of those visuals. So instead of reinventing the wheel, I'm just going to copy some visuals I have here, and then I would paste them there so that I don't have to start from the beginning. Okay, so I have them all here. I'm just going to tweak them and make them better than what they are already. Now, you'll notice that I did not even go with any background color or something of anything like that. And it's because it can be distracting. As much as you can make the background color as close to let's say, a single tone as possible. You don't need bright colors for your background colors because it makes it more difficult for you to choose. It makes it more difficult for you to choose for your colors to sit on that color. But when you have a plain background like white or very light gray, it's easier for you to work with. Now you will also notice that this chart is part of the modeling issues we face. It's starting from April and ending in September. If you try to sort it, if you check the sorting, you see that okay, sorted by month, but sorted ascending order, and ascending means from like alphabetically, it's A to Z. That means something was not done right in the modeling. So we will have to fix that. So when the calendar table or the date table was created and we had this month, it was not sorted. So you need to sort this month by month number. Once you do that, it will not read from it will read from January now till December, and it's no longer reading April to whatever was reading. So now this looks better. Another thing I will need to do, if you have a chart like this, let me expand it. And you have, you see, it says sum of sales amounts and months. You don't need this heading anymore because your initial heading has taken care of it. It says sum of sales amounts by month. So your x-axis or y-axis and x-axis heading, you don't need them anymore. So you just do what you turn off the titles for those headings for both the x-axis and the y-axis, and it makes your chart a little bit more cleaner. So you turn off the titles. These grid lines is a two-way thing. You can leave it on and you can also leave it off. So if you are leaving it on, you must make sure that you have something on the y-axis that is helping people search through. And if you're turning it off, maybe you replace it. You replace it with data labels. So instead of having y-axis, you use data labels instead. So let me even see how data labels will look like here. And see. So it doesn't sit well as so. So we'll turn that off and then we'll leave the axis title. Remember, we also said that there should be consistency. Okay, this is a little bit consistent in the titles. So in this, another thing that's also very important is scaling. Oh, excuse me. So you notice now that we have, so the person was trying to visualize total sales amount and quantity, and the scale at which the quantity sold is compared to sales amounts, the difference in the gap is too much. So it's advisable that you should not even put the quantity here. You don't have to put them together. So you just change, you just get rid of the quantity and leave the sales amount itself to shine. And it sells more. Because let me go back. Unless you bring in your tooltip, your cost, then you can see how much in quantity is sold. And that's not what it doesn't make sense compared to how much in millions the amount is sold. So it's better to get rid of it and maybe create another visual that will speak to quantity and then leave the sales amount alone. Then here we have this title that says sum of sales amounts, sum of target amounts. No, all these titles, we're also going to change them because there are two techniques that I'm very sure of that are efficient in creating or renaming your titles. So you can leave it as I will not leave sum of sales amount. I can just I'll rename it to total sales amount by region. That one is explicit enough. Another thing people do is they say things like what region, they ask it in the form of question. So you have maybe in the title, you can be like, what region makes the highest sales? So some people can ask it in form of questions because they know that those are the questions that the stakeholders may have in mind. And so they can have their titles in form of questions. So I'll just quickly turn off. I know this can be a lot of repetitive tasks. Turn off the titles. And then I will use data labels instead here. And then I'll also turn off the x-axis, the whole x-axis, because I already have data labels. So if you're going to work with data labels, you can as well turn off the x-axis. So see how the title is written. What region makes the most or the highest sales? Then instead of having, or you can also use this other style of being very direct. You're not asking any question. You just go total sales amounts by month. Okay. All right. So this one that says total sum of sales amount by sum of target. You just rename it to something more concise and make sense. It can be like sales amount versus target. Total sales versus total targets. Can also be in form of question, did we meet our target or not? Something like that. And then you see how it's written is clear. So I'm just going to quickly add some more cards. Let's duplicate this one. I'll change it to 2 decimal places so that we can see whether or not we made different a change. So even about these card visuals and whether or not to approximate your values or not, it's kind of a big debate. Some people are of the opinion that you should not have numbers that are showing to the last penny or to the last cover. You should just like round them up in this case. But I've been in cases where, especially when you are working with data that you have to, I mean, they need it to be on a weekly basis. So for every penny counts in that case. So maybe this week you made 2,150,000, and then next week you made 2,155,000. So at least the 5,000 shows that there's an increase. So in that case, you may need to show the total values. But when you're doing most times like an annual kind of report or like a holistic view, you will not need to show the whole numbers. Before I forget, we also need to bring in our logo here. Although I would have even preferred, so the logo can also be at the edge here and here. And then I'll also bring in the title. So the title should also not be too overpowering. It should not be so large, capitalized, as if you're shouting. So it should just be somewhere that, oh, it shows that this is a company's report, but it shouldn't be too over the board. How will I put it? Then I'll add more card visuals. I hope it's making more sense. Then let me total quantity. Okay, I would have loved to create more like create measures and do all those kind of stuff. For maybe I should. I think I'll just leave it here. Then I'll just add a slicer, one slicer for dates. So I'll just pick from my date table, just it. Drop it here. Okay, another way. So when you have your visuals and you're trying to like align them, you are moving them with your keyboard. Sometimes it can be hassle pressing keyboard multiple times. Once you hold the shift key and then you press the keyboard, it gives like it does like double steps instead of using the keyboard alone, like the arrow keys alone. But with the shift key, it goes like 2 steps forward, 2 steps backward, something like that. I needed to put that out there also. You can also edit. You can also edit your charts that are similar all together at once by selecting all of them. So I've selected these three by holding the control key and clicking on all of them. And then I can now add, I need borders, things under effects. Then I add visual borders. At least they should have a border. I don't need that what's it called? Background. I mean, what's it called? What's in the shadow? That shadow is not necessary. So if I'm using shadow, I should use shadow all through. Instead, I'll just use borders for these ones. Let me see if I can. I cannot. I can't. If they are not of the same type of charts. So if you're highlighting all your bar charts, you'll be able to highlight all of them and then add your effects. But if not, you might have to do them one after the other. Okay. All right. So remember the alignment has to be, they all have to be aligned. But these borders I'm using now is also, it just depends. Some people are of the opinion that you should, some people, and there's sometimes that I do not use them, and there's sometimes that I use them. I'm going to change the title of all this. labels, all these cards. This one is total quantity. And centralize it. Oh, you can then leave it the way it is. Okay? It's total targets. And this is total sales amount. Let me see, do I have any other chat that I didn't bring in? Okay, this one. Okay. So it's very important that I bring in this. So I'm going to drop this one here. This is an example of a chart that you should never do it or use this kind of pie chart. If you are using a pie chart, or if you have to use a pie chart or a donut chart, make sure that you are not visualizing more than 5 items on your chart. If not, you're defeating the purpose of what that chart does. And what does a pie chart do? It just shows composition of a whole. So you're showing how much, what section does each pizza hold compared to the whole number of pizza. So number of quantity of pizza, which pizza sells the highest? I mean, how many, what's our best selling pizza and the rest? So this is an outright no for this kind of chart. So instead of doing this, we just convert it to a bar chart. It's easier. Now you can see how much better. But you can also see that there are many values at the bottom here that we do not even need. So I want it to look similar to this one. I can just use the format painter and then copy the formatting I applied there to be applied here. So I've applied the data labels and also the names, the way the names look like. So when you have things like this, it's not going to be easy for your users to scroll up and scroll down. Remember, you have to have them in mind. So the best thing to do is just to show a part. So for example, in this case, I'm going to just show top 5 best-selling pizzas, something like that. So how do I do this? By clicking on this visual. Remember, you can filter by 3 levels: visual level, page level, and all pages. So I'm just going to format this or edit this pizza. So instead of showing basic filtering, I'll say top N. Top N what? Top 5 pizza. By what value? By this total quantity or sum of quantity. Then I say apply filter. And then it will reduce this chart for me to just the top 5. And it makes more sense that, okay, should we increase our sales on this, or whatever we're doing here, can we replicate it on other visuals or not? So just going to adjust this. Going to adjust it. I'm going to make this bigger a bit. So the scale, the space between this point and this point should be very similar, or the same. Just adjust this chart a little bit also. And you should not allow your chart sit on the edge. That's why if that's what you're facing, you can always increase the size or reduce the size of your page. I'll show us another way to align. I don't even like the way this is looking. So I'll show us some other way, a smarter way. So I'm going to hold by holding Control key, and I'm holding all these visuals, and I'm clicking on all of them. Then I go to Format. Then you see Align, and then Distribute horizontally. So this one gives you the same space across all your visuals. So the hack I usually do, so that it starts from the beginning, I will just move the first one to the edge and make sure that the last one is also at the edge. Then first things first, I would also I'll align top first so that all of them are sitting on the same level, and I'll now distribute horizontally. So the space between each card is the same, and then the space. So just move this one a bit to the top. Then I'll align these two top alignments. And also, if I can't even distribute horizontally because they are just two items. Then I have this two. So let me just be safe and make them the same size. Okay. So coming from where we're coming from, this looks a lot better than this. Do we agree? Although I know that there's some charts or some items that we did not include. And even if we have to, we can always create space for them that would fit in properly. So as much as you can, although I'm not so much of a fan of red, but that is the brand color of our company in this case. And then we just have to, will I say, work with it. But if you are not comfortable, or maybe you still feel like we need to tweak one or two things, you can always play with the background. So for example, let's say I change the background to something like this gray, then it's not even okay. Then I reduce the transparency. Okay, it's cool on the eyes now. It's not too bright. I'll make it a little bit dim. Okay, I think this looks better, although red is still that color. So it looks a lot better here. You can also change. There are a lot of things that you can do. You can't even start reviewing. And I would have loved to show us some of um previous reports that I've created before that I can say, oh, there was a lot of work that was done into, I mean, that got into this, and it really like accentuated the way the report looks like. Apart from the fact that all the modeling and clean and all those things are done in the back end, there are many things that we need. Okay, I'm even missing one thing out. The title here is not consistent, remember. So other ones we're talking about, we changed it from sum of. So we also have to change this. So we just change this to total quantity sold, total quantity by pizza. Okay, total quantity sold. Okay, or we can even top five, top five pizza sold. So we know, okay, by quantity. So it might not just be by amount itself. Okay. So this, if you agree with me, and if you have anything contrary, let me also know in the comments whether or not this is better than this, or is the other things that in your opinion would have been better off compared to what we have here. So it's almost the end. It's already the end of my webinar. I would like to hear from you in the comment section, and I hope you learned something new.
Thanks a lot. And as usual, anyway, I'm not surprised. Like you covered a lot in the short time, and you didn't just jump into the old demo without setting up the context and the theory that people need to be aware of and the tools that they could use outside of Power BI. I love the Hadoop color one. That one is new to me. I've not tried it, so I'm gonna see how to make more use of that. I'm asking people in the house if they've got any additional questions or if they. And I'm also using the opportunity to mention that we've got a boot camp coming up in February that it's going to cover Power BI, SQL, and Excel. So if
Mhm.
you're interested, I'm sharing the link in chat. You can register. You can register for free. You can decide to register for the paid certificate track. So money is not a concern if you think, this that you've knowledge on Power BI or Excel or SQL is something that is going to help you in your career, then I would say,
Mhm.
you should give it a try. So, any questions before we close today's session?
I just even remember that I skipped a slide because I said I was going to come back to it, and I just
Okay,
remembered now.
great. You can share
Yeah.
your screen then.
Okay. So this slide I wanted us to I wanted to get back on was it's just about um my final words anyways. How do you know if your report or your dashboard is useful? The only way you can know, or the best way to know if your dashboard is great, is if people use it and it serves them well. So no matter how fancy or how you think you can build your report. I'm sure we've had cases where people say, "Oh, please export it to Excel. I need to see something." That's the worst thing you can hear after building a dashboard. Is the worst comment or yes, I'll say comment somebody can give you. Please can let me see it. I know you've done a good work, but please, can you send me the reports in Excel? No, you shouldn't be hearing that. So the best way to know if you did a good job is to I mean, is if the report serves them well, and if and the only way you can know that is by asking questions. I remember there's somewhere I used to work, and then we had about in an organization you should have, okay, let's say in the organization we had like 10 departments, but we had like, if not more than 50 reports, and I had to do a complete overhaul of Power BI service that period. And after everything, it came to it just came to like 22 reports. So we just had like almost 30 reports that were just there. That's the last time somebody ever checked it was 3 months ago. That just clearly shows that the report is not useful to them. So I remember the end user has to be at the back of your mind whenever you're creating. So always from time to time ask them how they are using the report, if there's something you need to edit, format, or whatever, and if there's any way you can improve on the UI. So remember, no matter how fancy your report looks like, you just if people use it, it means that it's good. And if they don't, you didn't do a good job. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. I think that part of people still wanting to use Excel, huh? It's not gonna go away.
Um,
There's a report that we did in the company I consult for where everybody agreed that they want it in Power BI. They already are
mhm.
sick of the Excel, so it wasn't like we are forcing them to move to Power BI. But you know
Okay.
what? People still will go on the Power BI visual and click
Mhm.
export to Excel. So
Is it that they want to
sometimes
create smaller reports or what?
Sometimes they use it for validation. Like maybe they will. Sometimes it's
Okay.
also they want to use the data to do something else that they need to do within Excel. Some other times it's just they
Mhm.
want to compare. Maybe it's slightly different from something else they were expecting or something else they have already in
Okay.
Excel. So I
Okay.
think
Not
there
not
are
not
reasons
necessarily
anyway.
that your report is bad.
No, no, no. It's just that they
Okay.
just want the underlying figure. They want to copy it into
To
Excel for
correlate.
something else.
Okay. It is possible. Accept that.
Okay, so thank you to everyone. I think I'll just end the session now so that I let you all have back your evening and prepare for the week ahead. Thank you all and have a wonderful week. Yeah,
Thank you, everybody.
thanks for the great session too.